When you buy Kroger brand products, you feel like you're winning. That's because they offer proven quality at lower than low prices. In fact, we guarantee that you and your family will love how Kroger brand products taste, or you get your money back. So next time you're shopping for the family, look for delicious Kroger brand products, because they'll make you all feel like you're winning. Shop now, in-store, or online. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Transfer Podcast here on Anfield Index Pro. I am Trev Downey. I am here in my house, in my field, in beautiful rural Ireland. I'm joined, of course, by Dave Davis to talk about, Dave, some actual transfers on the Transfer Podcast. Who'd have thunk it, brother?
Like, in the quiet words of John the Baptist, we are fucking on. There's stuff happening, Trev. We're live. There's transfers happening. I love it.
Yeah, it's a shock, I think, to all and sundry. So we will just start as we always do at Liverpool. Of course, advance apologies, lads. There's nothing going to happen here for us, really. But there are other transfers that people will be interested in because, of course, we get ourselves all bent out of shape about other people are doing. And let's continue that. First of all, there is some Liverpool-related news, both in terms of things that are getting done, some rumours, and a very controversial stance adopted by some people on a certain bit of recruitment that some of us think is quite important. Let's begin with Mr. McConnell, our up-and-comer, who has signed a new contract. And it would appear on the back of that there's certainly a little bit of hope for this guy as a potential future Red.
Yeah, this is a good one, Trev. James McConnell's a youth product, plays in central midfield. And probably people will know the name because they saw him in pre-season, didn't they, on the tour? And I know people are going to be saying, like, oh, James McConnell's another kid, who cares, and all that type of thing. Just to be, like, crystal clear, when you ask round about James McConnell, the club have got real hopes for this kid. They really have. And I know people will be thinking of the names on the back of the under-18s FA Cup, like Trey and Yoni and all that type of thing. But it shouldn't just be one that's dismissed. They wanted to get this done as soon as they could when he's come of age. You know, it makes it sound like he's going to prom type of thing. But they're really excited about this kid. So long term, let's hope it bears out.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we do seem to have, much to the squad's benefit, quite a decent production line at the moment. And if this guy's going to join that and maybe start impacting a little bit, people have seen him get a couple of runs out. And maybe if that can be a more regular thing, as you say, absolutely wonderful. It's something we really want to see happening, which is that we start turning out our own top end footballers. And in terms of other things that we can kind of hang our hat on, there are a lot of questions around the loans of various personnel. We will refrain from taking the name of Big Nat Phillips too often in vain on this podcast, and we'll barge on with some decisions that seem to have been done, including his old pal, Rhys Williams. What do we know about loan decisions in this window as it stands?
Yeah, quite a few moving now, aren't they? And there'll be even more, Trev, as the window goes late. But Big Rhys, he's off to the heady heights of Port Vale, isn't he there? So in the Las Vegas belt of the Stoke area. Balagizi confirmed as well to Kilmarnock. Interesting one that. We've got a good relationship with Kilmarnock. We sent Luke Chambers on loan there last year, so it wouldn't be surprised to see even a few more end up there longer term. And to be fair, Trev, it's not us saying it this time. Pep Lijnders mentioned Big Nat and Kalvin Ramsay, didn't he, in yesterday's press conference to say that pretty much, they have many offers. Pep Lijnders' words, not mine, for these two players, but they've got to look at it in terms of what's right for them, the club, the agent, all those types of things. So I think with the good news around injuries, full expectation that both of those will leave the club on a temporary basis at least. We won't go too much into Big Nat very soon. And then the other one, just to point out that now Owen Beck has played that game for us, that he could only play for two clubs as per the FIFA rules a season. So he was on loan at Dundee and he's played for us. But from asking around, as we do normally, haranguing people, Dundee have asked, can we get him back? There's nothing imminent there, and Liverpool obviously have till the end of the window to make that decision. But Dundee have asked, so it's one to keep an eye on. So, plenty of loans still in the pipeline.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder what would be your gut on that, because to see the guy come back and be instantly embraced into, getting a chance to be there around the first team. He's obviously rated highly enough to be in that bracket. I wonder, have the spate of injuries maybe made Kloppo think I could do with having a few troops near at hand? What's your gut instinct on whether he goes or not? I
think it's a bit... It's sad for the lad in one way, but it's good overall because he is a Liverpool fan. He come back and thought, I can get in the door like Conor Bradley style. The thing that's probably killed his prospects is Robbo's back in the squad for tonight, isn't he? We know that. So there's a senior left back. Pep Lijnders also gave an update that Tsimikas is a week to 2 weeks away, which probably, if you tally it with the timeline, Trev, about the time the window's closing. So unless something goes horrifically wrong in terms of senior left backs, I just think it makes sense, just to, in the nicest way, turn him straight back around and get him playing football again.
Yeah, there's a lot of sense in that. Now we come to the speculative part of the Liverpool section here. And we will get back to the whole debate around midfield and midfield recruitment. But if that is looking a little bit on the dubious side, and there was some seriously cold water being poured by certain lads on certain podcasts that you may have heard of, Dave Davis, in relation to the midfield, there are certainly more confident and upbeat sounds around defensive recruitment. Some very highly rated youngsters being linked with the club. Are these absolute speculation? Is there anything to them at all? And what are the specific links that you've heard?
Well, probably the short answer is yes to all of the above. But in detail, it was interesting because it came up on Media Masters with David Lynch on Monday that, Liverpool are very much and have looked at, and Lenny Yoro's already been mentioned before, but Diomande, the young Sporting Lisbon centre-half, is at AFCON currently. Liverpool have had a good look at him as a player. Do want to sort of balance this fully because it's quite clear Liverpool have looked at a few young centre-halves, so people will naturally jump to that, Trev, and go, we're definitely signing one. Of course we are, all this type of thing as well. But it is important just to counter that David Lynch was really clear. Looking doesn't mean shopping and buying, as we know, type of thing. They're two completely different things. So there's nothing imminent. It doesn't mean we're definitely going to go for one of these boys as a centre-half. And I know people like these names. I like these names, especially. Don't get me wrong, I would love to see us get one of these in. But I'm not getting too excited. So there's nothing definitive or definite, but definitely looking at them. And hopefully, come summer, we're having a bit of an advanced conversation, put it that way.
It is very, very heartening to be linked with lads that are so highly rated. Yoro in particular, I've never seen people rave about a kid in defence like I've seen people speak about this guy. He really, really has captured the imagination of a lot of people. And I think some people I've seen whose opinions I think would be worth giving some weight to, saying, look, if it's him or Diomande, it doesn't really matter. They're both excellent young guys. They'd be very, very good recruits. And maybe then we could get to a situation where Ali McCoist will be happy with Liverpool because he realises there in his depth of wisdom that Liverpool have never had a settled and reliable defensive centre-half pairing under Klopp. Fair play to him. That's spectacular insight there from young McCoist. Now, here we get to the controversial part, because we can be linked and linked all day, and we were being linked, Dave, with midfielders. That was the thing, because it was a kind of a given, backed up then by the actions of the club in terms of where they started to fire money aggressively in a way that was both controversial and competitive and aggressive. We would be all forgiven for thinking, well, this is the type of profile of player that we have identified. And I don't think anyone is enough of a sap to believe that the, 19 million or whatever it was for young Endo, or not so young Endo as it happens, which is kind of the point, it was ever going to be the alternative. So we're either going all in 100 million plus on Caicedo, or we could just spend 20 on this guy, and what's the difference? And honestly, that kind of deliberately obtuse thinking, it does my skull in. I can't cope with lads who are that, I suppose, benighted in the way that they view the world. It's just silly. Can we just have an honest conversation about it? So we've all come to believe that this is what we were looking for, going all the way back to the previous seasons, and the links with a fella who decided to join Real Madrid, surprise, surprise, instead of Liverpool. Another highly rated, young, aggressive midfielder. So we were being linked with those types. And it's not that we're not being linked with them anymore. Not only are we not being linked with them, but it would appear, and again, I said this to you in a personal conversation, and I may have used the wrong word, but it felt as if what we were hearing from one or two sources now almost had that feel of briefing about it. And what I mean by that is not this stereotypical nonsense about backhanders and brown envelopes. It's more lads hearing the line that the club want to put out there, and putting it out there because they have been told that this is how it's going to be. And it seems as if we're not interested in central midfielders, Dave. And I am curious, and I'm confused, and I'm sad, and I need you to talk me through it, brother.
I love our personal conversations, which will usually go along the lines of, how the hell can you believe this, Davis? What is wrong with you? Get a grip, Downey. Get it there. Tuesday, 4:30 work for you? Yeah, see you then, pal. Time to I do enjoy those chats. I love this, Trev. This has just come from nowhere, this whole number 6 thing, and stirred the pot righteously amongst everyone. I mean, it was a question that was kind of, we were chatting about with David Lynch, and just to be fair, because I want to quote him accurately and be factual in this, as he said, that all the noises or the briefing from the club is they will not be going back in for a 6 in the summer. That is what he said, which obviously people have their opinions on, and I totally understand where you're saying, I would like us to go in for a 6. That's me personally. And I also understand the element of the other argument, which people are saying, as we've talked about as well, nothing hidden, that Liverpool are top of the league with this at the moment. Look how well Alexis McAllister played. All those things. I understand both sides of the argument. This is me, Trev. I just love the argument to start with. That's my character flaw, but that's a different discussion altogether. Then, so that starts a debate amongst David Lynch and good old Sam Maguire. We see you, Sam, you mischievous little bastard. You did an article today, didn't you, about this was always the plan. Alexis McAllister planned this, Liverpool, this is natural. Get on board, people. This is a new Liverpool 7.0, and all the things he put in his article. And just for the record, Sam's article is far more educated than that, if anyone wants to read it. That's just my rough synopsis. But I love this, Trev. Maybe just because of the debate. If you'd have asked me a week ago or so, I don't know why this has come up now, I'd have been like, you got to get a 6. You got to. I don't know who it'll be, but this is the plan, a younger model, and I totally get what you're saying. But it just feels like there's a few, and I want to be, fair on this, like people whose opinions I respect. Doesn't mean you agree with everything they say, but respectful or arguing it from a different angle. And I don't know, Trev, if I'm excited, I don't know if I'm worried, or I don't know if I'm a little column A, column B, so to speak, type of thing. My My crudest argument I can make is, and people are going to disagree with this, I don't care. I would like another. And when you say destroyer, as you know, people just jump to, oh, you want a player who can just kick people. No, that's not what I'm saying, because Fabinho, as we know, was far more than that. But I don't mind a physical number 6 who's progressive at the same time as well. I don't think we have that right now. Trev, why wouldn't you want another tool on the belt, so to speak? I don't understand why you wouldn't. You don't just want to limit yourself, and I get it's maybe a different way of playing. So I would like that player to come in the summer, but I don't know about you. I'm not maybe as confident as I was a few months ago, or especially in the last week or so. Who knows? Put it that way.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
I'm not confident at all, based on the fact that the likes of Lynch are saying it doesn't really seem as if it's likely. And to listen to David on your show talk in a way that was kind of, I mean, do we really need to look at how McAllister's playing? And so just for the record, so we get it out there, what I would have said to you during the week was, look, I fair enough. And you can look at the last outing in particular and say, well, that was a tremendous performance, and he's clearly a super player, and perhaps he could be clopped in terms of being changed to adapt to a role and then excel in it. Super. I'm all for that. In the meantime, are we just doing the full trust in Klopp? Trust in the system, trust in the method? Because some of those people who say that would say to you that the recruitment in other areas hasn't been good enough, or they don't trust Linders, or whatever their little beef is. So unless you're sort of a blind, trust everything the manager does and says, and with the insistence that the manager is the one who has final say on everything, then I guess you are perhaps entitled to ask a question or two. And that's where I find myself a little bit like you, cocking an eyebrow at the immediate past and saying, was that not a thing, lads? Were we not thinking that this was going to be a thing? And now it appears we're trying to... I just don't like the concept of being gaslit. It bugs the crap out of me in any walk of life. And I don't like the feeling of being gaslit about, well, sure, we never needed that anyway. And we saw Klopp do it to us a couple of seasons ago, again, about the midfield. What do you want? Haven't you got all these guys? That worked out well, didn't it, Kloppo? So, there's no need for any arrogance. We've also, listen, Sam will always get a pass, regardless of what he says, because he's a good lad. And as you said, the piece is far more balanced than any headlines might have you think. But I'm talking more about the people who've been doing these verbal think pieces, Dave. These long, rambling things justifying, trust the system, trust in Klopp, and look at McAllister's underlying stats, blah, blah, blah. I just think, okay, fine. But that reinvention and that rethinking and that new way of approaching things must have happened in the course of this season. If that's what you're telling me and that's what's the truth, I guess we have to roll with it. We have no choice anyway, do we? But there are other clubs who are certainly going to be buying left, right and centre. Maybe not quite as many as would have in previous Januaries, but thank God at least some of them are doing something, Dave, because we were in a bad situation there for a little while with this show in terms of actual stuff to talk about. But lo and behold, mate, as you said to me, the agenda has had to be updated, what did you say, 3 times since we started? Let's begin with the story of little Mr. Trippier and how he's not happy where he is over there with the Geordie boys and he'd like to go elsewhere. Because that kind of, to me, I don't know, I could be wrong here, man, but that seems to have been the one that got the ball rolling.
I love what's happened this week. I generally like the duplicitousness of it, the financial irregularities, the drama, the stories, the leaks. I love it. It just felt like we were back in the game. And like you said, it did seem to just stem or just come from Kieran Trippier and that whole the Plettenberg and Romano sort of breaking. It feels like a million years ago now, Trev, that Bayern are looking at Kieran Trippier. And to be honest, we all thought, this is nonsense. This is just a negotiating tactic around them trying to get Mukiele, and we know this from PSG type of thing. However, it unravels more and more, and let's put weight on it, Trev. It leads to an Ornstein bomb, doesn't it? Where, like, yeah, they are in talks, then another Ornstein bomb around, like, yeah, they've even made an offer, one that's been rejected, which I think is crazy, by the way, of about 15 million euros. So, depending on how good you get euros at Tesco or wherever it may be, about 12.5 million, something like that in your trade type of thing, which for a 33-year-old right back on massive wages who, let's be honest, doesn't get the same analysis on Trent, but that's a different show, doesn't seem that bad. And then there's obviously other stuff with Newcastle, which is proper juicy now as the other stories come out. But you're right, it just feels like, I don't know why, Trippier just set the whole ball rolling on the PSR, the FFP clubs and other deals. It just feels like the touch paper's lit, and I'm loving it.
Can I just say something as well? I loved the way you expressed that. It was the thing happened with Trippier, and I just felt we're back in the game. And what Dave's saying there is, no, Liverpool aren't back in the game. There's not going to be any Liverpool business. Yeah. Our show's fucking back in the game. We've got something to talk about. There are people on the move, which is, how we get our jollies on this show. That's what it's all about. And within that, like you say, a little bit of a touch paper perhaps, but Newcastle have several other bits and pieces going on. You talked about how initially there was the suspicion about that being some sort of Mukiele, sort of a lever being pulled, some sort of trickster behavior going on. But there's more going on there. There is more Newcastle-related stuff that you can fill us in on, including a mad story involving Almiron. Fill us in on the rest of the Newcastle-related gossip.
Yeah, because it all had the feeling of this is just fake teasing at the moment. And then especially when that Callum Wilson story came out, that Atletico Madrid wanted him. And then we were all like, hold on, Atletico Madrid are in talks with Moise Keane, who's, by the way, got the best agent, because how he moves to these clubs when he's as bad as he is a different question. But that was all just, we're like, smoke screens, mirrors, it's nonsense. However, it then comes quite interesting, Trev, because, like you said, Almiron, this just kind of comes from nowhere, that Al-Shabaab, the Saudi team, are in talks to do a deal with Newcastle United for Almiron. And of course, from a legal point of view for the transfer show, it's important to state there's no connection between Newcastle and any Saudi club at this stage. So, that's just our disclaimer there. But they've got money. And then the best thing is, Trev, it comes out in a few articles from a few journos that at Atalanta United, his former club, have got a clause in there as well, something like a 15-20% sell-on. So their fee is apparently still being negotiated. But there's a lot of journos saying this, Al-Shabaab, Almiron, it's a serious deal. And now the dominoes start, because the Telegraph, Luke Edwards specifically, Trev, says if Almiron goes, Newcastle have already got his replacement in mind. Yes, it's another club affected by the PSR, Nottingham Forest, and Morgan Gibbs-White is the one they've got in mind to bring in. So you can see where all this is just nicely simmering along, so to speak. And there's actually hope that a few dominoes start tumbling. We might actually get our January window, and we are excited, just to confirm.
100%. I'm really hoping that ahead of this Almiron move, he doesn't find himself in a conversation with either Jordan Henderson or Karim Benzema or anyone else who's having a good old moan about things out there, and he just gets whatever dollar signs in front of his eyes, and we have a little bit of kickoff. Now, speaking of things beginning to happen. There's a very interesting situation at Forest, because obviously Forest have recently been punished, and they are in a situation where they probably have to do a lot of carrying the four, financially speaking, to try to keep books balanced. But there is definitely stuff afoot there with some well-known names, both on the playing side and behind the scenes, being involved. And of course, you mentioned the Ornstein bombs. He was dropping another one or two in relation to Forest as well. This is very interesting. Talk to us about Forest, Napoli, Mangala, and all the rest of it.
Or deals in boardrooms, duplicitiveness, marriage of convenience. There's some proper drama going on here at Nottingham Forest, and we are here for it. So, yeah, Oriol Mangala, their Belgian central midfielder. Naturally, everyone knows Forest's PSR issues, so you keep that as the backdrop. But Plettenberg and a few others have said Napoli have had a few offers rejected for him, and a lot of them tend to be this loan with an obligation or an option. So that's still in negotiations. And I think there's an expectation for a lot of people that gets done, but it's not right now, and there's definite offers. And let's be honest also, Trev, Napoli and what they are against where Forest are struggling, this isn't to, for Forest fans start shouting at us, but it's understandable if that player did want to move on in that regard. So that's the kind of opening gambit. And now for the Liverpool links as well. So number one, they reject a loan offer with an option from Feyenoord for good old Nico Williams, Trev. So that's an offer they rejected. And also, they are trying to cancel big Divock's loan as well, because unfortunately, ever since Divock enjoyed his Christmas dinners, it's not quite been the same on what they're wanting, has it, realistically? So it's looking, I don't know, pretty dark for at least one of the former Reds and Nottingham Forest. And a lot of people are looking at Forest, aren't they? They know where they are. They know their financial woes. So is there a right for the pick and a deal to be had? Then, we've just talked about Gibbs White and what might happen if Almiron and the dominoes on that. And then these are the beautiful ones. Jorge Mendes is coming into the mix, Trev. You know that Portuguese super agent, Ronaldo's best pal? All the suggestions are, when you ask around, is that Forest are pretty much, they haven't yet, but they're looking to get into bed like Wolves did a few years ago, if you remember, where he funneled them Ruben Neves, Diogo Jota, those types of players that very much Forest are looking to get into bed with Jorge Mendes. And lo and behold, what's the Ornstein bomb last night? Forest are trying to get Gio Reyna, the USA international, playing at Dortmund, or not so much as the case may be. Oh, and who's his rep, Trev? Yeah, we know, Jorge Mendes. So that's one that's being looked at. Now, Di Maurizio said that the player today prefers Marseille. And I'm not going to start debating Marseille Forest. People will have their opinions on that. But there's a bit of juice there to squeeze, no doubt. And then even another player, the former City youngster, Carlos Borges, the winger, who went to Ajax for a decent fee in the summer. He's being looked at apparently now by Forest. Now, before people jump on this and say, hold on, he's not with Gestufi, or however you pronounce Jorge Mendes' agency. He is with their sub-agency, i.e. one that Mendes controls. So, yeah, that's another Mendes client linked with Nottingham Forest. I don't know if you're spotting a theme here, Trev, but I might just be alluding to one, so to speak. So, in good news for us, Forest are bringing a bit of late drama to the party. We might just get a bit off them, so to speak.
See, you love the stories where there's like nastiness, backbiting, duplicitousness, as you say. I also love those stories, and I love a story that has a bit of corporate fuckery in it. And it does seem as if we may have some little sleight of hand being done by certain people. And well, let's watch that with great interest. And we move on to Aston Villa, who obviously, in the position they're in, I think I would imagine they've overachieved even by people's standards who had rated them highly to still be where they are. And, you know, what most clubs do is when they're in a position of strength, they solidify. So Villa are obviously going to try to do that. You know, it's a wonderful concept. What do we know about what's possible for them? I don't know if there are any names that are necessarily going to set people's hair on fire, but they're definitely being linked with a couple of deals.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not, you're right, it's not big names, but again, with Monchi and Emery there, there's the feeling they're trying to build going forward, aren't they? So the name that Ornstein's mentioned, quite a few people have seen. Morgan Rogers, the young forward, the former City product, who scored last night for Middlesbrough in the Carabao Cup semi-final, where they got absolutely pumped, didn't they? But he got on the score sheet. So they've had 2 bids turned down for him already. And there's, full expectation that they go back in, they try and do it again type of thing. And it's unlikely, never guaranteed, but unlikely that Emery wouldn't get his man. So then leads to the question, well, hold on, what about Aston Villa's other forwards? Because Ollie Watkins is the star there. He's not going anywhere. However, their young Colombian, Duran, he's been the subject of a few inquiries, but more importantly, and this broke during West Ham's match the other day, West Ham had a bid for a loan with an option rejected for him, but are still interested in the player. So again, we might be doing 2 and 2 and getting 26, but there is the wonder, like, 1 in, 1 out in the future type of thing, because he's not quite getting the football, Duran, there, first of all. Then other outgoings, Dendonker, their midfielder, who's not getting a look in. He's in talks with Napoli, which seems a great move for all parties, because apparently he's on massive, massive wages in that regard. And then there's a few other deals coming in. Now, I can't even pronounce the name, and I can mangle names with the best of them, Trev, but I can't even do the name of Aston Villa's new right-back from Red Star Belgrade. Let's just say he's worth about 76 at Scrabble and leave it at that type of thing. But that deal is done for about 8 million quid, but he's not going to come until the summer. So that naturally throws questions around what about Matty Cash? How are you going to play? I know Target's their left back. They're probably looking to sell him, but like you say, it's not names that set people alight, but Villa are just moving subtly, and there's ins, there's outs, a lot to be decided still.
There's a little bit of crossover. I think you already mentioned West Ham, so we should go to them next. A little bit of crossover then with between the 2 items here, because West Ham have apparently got their eyes on a comparatively big name player at a big club, if not 2, which is, I think, very interesting. And you already mentioned the Duran bid as well, which is probably worth reiterating. But there's a third name being linked. So that's 4 in total. West Ham would appear to have a desire to do business.
This was fascinating. I mean, this is like that Vince McMahon meme that everyone sees where he gets more and more excited.
Yeah.
I think David Ornstein got that excited, Trev. He edited his tweet 3 times around this story, realistically. So I don't know if he was getting carried away as well, like something to report. But Kalvin Phillips, the big name, isn't it? The non-playing Manchester City midfielder that pretty much West Ham have agreed that deal with City to take him on loan. Now, he edited it a few times, so we're going off the latest tweet from Ornstein and story, I should say, to paraphrase, but they're covering 100% of the salary, and there is an option in there for the end of the season. I mean, there was lots of talk of like the amount of loan and all that, but he kept updating his tweets. So I think good old David was getting carried away at the same time, but that's probably the biggest story you'd say of the week. So that looks like it's still not done, but you're expecting it to happen. One that they've just been dismissed with is came out that they made a loan offer for Arsenal's attacking midfielder, young Emile Smith-Rowe. There's a lot of fans of Smith-Rowe, isn't there? Just not Arteta, it seems. Doesn't seem to get a game at all, but that was rejected in that regard. We talked about, like you said, Duran as well. That bid's been rejected. However, it literally got updated really today, and I can't pretend I know this player at all, but he's in the Danish league, Nordjylland, I think it's pronounced. So Ibrahim Osman. Now, he's a young winger, apparently, and the initial bid's been rejected for around 60 million euros. So there is a suspicion that somewhere around 19 to 20 million euros gets it done. But West Ham are busy, aren't they, Trev? They still got that little bit left over of the Declan Rice money. I know they got Alvarez, Ward-Prowse and people like that, but they still got a little bit just sitting in the account. And to be fair to the Moisire, they're going great guns in the league. You've got to give them that, aren't they? They're still in all those types of things. So, yeah, don't be surprised if West Ham just do a few deals as well for excitement before the window shuts.
Yeah, 2 in a row there of clubs who find themselves in a strong position and looking to looking to solidify, which, like I say, concept may be worth considering. We have got a weird Spurs story. This is odd, man. I had not heard this one. Normally, you're throwing these things in here, and I've at least had a whisper of some of it. This one I had not come across at all. It's a really weird story involving one of your English pounds and a formerly incredibly highly rated footballer. Talk to us about this one.
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m, Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, usually when I put these in the agenda, it's a typo, isn't it? The player's gone to Bruges and not Butcher, as it's come out on the auto text type of thing. But this one's really weird. Perisic to Hajduk split for £1. £1. The price of the old trolley at Tesco type of thing. Now, there's lots of suggestions of people going back to his homeland type of thing. It just seems odd because he was still getting the odd game at Spurs, wasn't he? I know he's a bit older and maybe he wants to play, but it's just a bit of a, maybe some people will take it as a heartwarming story back to, his homeland and all that. But yeah, Perisic for £1. Maybe that sums up the whole FFP of the window. Who knows? But it's a story.
It just is, and it's a very interesting one. And speaking of weird, there are other things going on around the bottom of the table, where, of course, Everton reside. Sheffield United are involved here as well. And, of course, it wouldn't be a week if we didn't have Danjuma being pissed off and looking to get away from wherever he is. So talk to us around about this to wrap up our Premier League section for now.
Yeah, Everton. I mean, the world and his dog knows Everton are skint. So if there's any sort of Everton fringe players who aren't getting games, they're trying to shift them, aren't they? I mean, Mason Holgate was the one. He's been out and on loan. And this is the weirdest thing. Everton had agreed the deal with Sheffield United for him to go there, and that happened. However, as quite a few journos reported, and it's their words, not me or asking, it was just in the stories, Trev, he got there, and then Everton asked for a fee. The Sheffield United went, no, and the deal fell through. So God knows where that's at type of thing. Just utterly bizarre. Even one just to call out now as well, Ben Godfrey, another youngster or player there. He's not really getting, just a young, but an English centre-half that's not getting much time. He's apparently creating a lot of interest. And then, like you said, because Everton need to, we know all Everton's problems, but Danjuma, obviously in between those EasyJet flights between Manchester and Liverpool, he's thinking about how happy he is, and quite a few journos have got Lyon specifically as the club that naturally wants to take him, and apparently he is keen on that. What's happening again? All the stories are that Dyche doesn't want to lose any players and all this, but I don't think a week will go by where there's not a Danjuma story and how unhappy he is taking these flights and at Everton. So, yeah, we'll just see if anything comes by the end of the window.
You'd be amazed to hear Sean Dyche say anything other than he doesn't want to lose players, even if it was only just to send the message out there that he needs to have a replacement if someone goes. So I wouldn't put a huge amount of weight by that. In fact, I'd be more inclined to go towards something that you mentioned the last night, which was the unmistakable sarcasm that was there in the initial couple of comments. Before he modified it a little bit, talking about players needing their rest, there was definitely a sort of, well, I think I'd buy a car in that situation. So I think he'll be just well shot of a guy like that. It doesn't sound very Sean Dyche to me. He gets a lot of stick about being meat and potatoes But that's because he kind of is, and of course he's very, very good at what he does. Nobody's arguing that. But you can imagine him not having very little patience with that type of thing. And I guess that brings us then to our final section, which is to go around Europe, and of course we have to fold in the Saudi thing, and we'll go there last, I think, because it's a big-ish story, and we can revisit some of the stories we've already talked about. But of course, there is a very, very big other story here. Nothing specific as such yet, but one of the most sought after attackers in football, certainly in the Italian league, looks as if he may have a notion where he's going next. Let's go there first before we do our Saudi roundup.
Yeah, this was a story created by the player. Let's be completely clear on that. And what he said, his quote. So Victor Osimhen, the Nigerian Napoli striker, sure, a name that everyone knows, like you said, a big target for all the big clubs, well on their radar. The way he said it, why, he's done quite a few interviews, to be honest, Trev, while he's out at AFCON. He was quite clear in what he said. I mean, English is brilliant for anyone who says it in translation, anything like that. He was crystal clear that I already know my next move. I've already decided on my next move. Now, people took that as various things. It could be that he stays at Napoli, but I wouldn't bet any money on it, put it that way. And then, funnily enough, Trev, in the same interview, he starts talking about the quality of the Premier League and all this. But he kept saying when he was asked about different clubs in his answer, but I've already decided. So Big Victor's already made his call. It's just waiting for the summer, whatever it is. And he's almost built the drama for us nicely. And I'm sure when he heard that, Sweeney Todd started playing in his pocket type of thing because Chelsea need a forward and all these things. Don't get me wrong. But he very nicely has just put a lot of clubs on alert, shall we say. But it's just fascinating the way he kept saying, but I've already made my decision. So either a big move's coming, or this is one big tease, isn't it? And we're going to have to wait to the summer to find out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it won't stop those rumors from continuing and people thinking they've got the final clarification on where it's going to be and all the rest of it. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Like you say, one of those ones that everybody's keeping an eye on because he is such a highly rated talent. And let's, like I say, finish with a little bit of a chat about the slightly reinvigorated Saudi market, not necessarily massive amounts of money being put out there, but at the same time, we are hearing about Almiron. We are hearing that there's a Henderson replacement desired by Gerrard. We are hearing another couple of names, though, in terms of lads who would like to be going the opposite direction. Poor Laporte, not happy really with the standard of things. It's just not what he was promised, you see. And he's awful upset and talking in a way that he'd like to get his move away. And we're hearing very much the same with Karim Benzema. So there is some movement afoot, and you would assume that we're huge stars, regardless of what you think of the ability of each of these guys, the profile of the players, of Henderson, of Benzema, of the ex-City man whose name Laporte, those are guys who you would imagine are going to need replacing if this project is going to continue. So that may at least kickstart some other bits and bobs. What do you think about the stories we're hearing, especially with the potential of moves there? And what do you think about the likelihood of moves away? Has Henderson, if you like, almost set a precedent now? Or do you think he was just lucky with the way his contract was arranged and the goodwill that he seemed to have with the manager and the owners there?
It's such an interesting one, Trev. And the short answer is I genuinely am a bit unsure, but I do suspect there's just a bit of managing it, shall we say, by the Saudi side and making sure, let's just be careful of how we look here, so to speak, which I know people are going to laugh at me when I say, but I think from a football point of view, that's how they're looking. But I believe, and obviously I can't prove this, time will tell on it a little bit, but again, all the reports are this is building up for the summer again, as in just keep it ticking over now, keep it as sweet as possible, because in the summer, that 2.5 billion kicks in and we go again type of thing. But like you said, the Henderson one was the one that threw the spotlight on it again, wasn't it? And like people unhappy, all the impact and those types of things. Al Ettifaq responded, didn't they, by getting Stevie to renew, driving, the Hendo money in a truck over to Stevie's new house and saying, you stay here, we need you to front this type of thing. And I mean, the suggestions of the wages Gerrard's now on are absolutely huge for a manager, absolutely immense. And Al Ettifaq, they're ones that say, they'll back him, they're looking for options. They are trying to do, as it stands, a moving from, I think it's Al Hilal that Seko Fofana is currently playing at, to see if they can shift him there. But if they don't get that to happen, because Fofana's not agreed to it yet, and he's obviously at the AFCON, but Ivory Coast has just gone out, that Everton's Abdoulaye Doucouré apparently is the target. Quite a few reports on that to look at. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. And the reason I say that is, people could dismiss it, but people forget Damari Gray went there as well, didn't he? That, Everton could do with that cash as well, probably, if they can afford to lose Doucouré. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on that way. Emerson Royal, there was a bid for him. Quite a few reported rejected for the Spurs left back / centre back / whatever formation Ange plays on a weekly basis. So there's money there. United as well. I mean, just because we love to laugh at these occasionally, but quite a few reports that, the Saudi clubs have been offered Jadon Sancho and Anthony for 50 million apiece. Quite a few outlets ran with that, so that's just one to mention. The two headlines, though, I think it's important, I've left these to last, like you said. Benzema's the first one, because that's just been like, he's late, he's not come back, and that's just rumbled on, like, what's happening? And then all the reports came out the other day, didn't he, that he wants to go, whether that's temporary according to some or permanent on others, but he wants to leave at least for now. Leon were linked, weren't they, as well, back to his old club. Obviously, he'd have to take a massive wage cut and all that, but good old Karim is very disillusioned, it seems, there. And then the last one, like you said, I mean, I never thought I'd be bringing Twitter into this directly and how they do things, Trev, but Laporte, apparently I'm doing that with a Dr. Evil style question marks, does an interview saying they don't take it seriously, they breach promises, I'm sure everyone's seen it, all the things, and that goes on various outlets, doesn't it? And people start quoting it and doing that. Then, Laporte, he doesn't do a statement denying it, Trev. He just puts an X on his timeline. Like at Family Fortunes when they used to get an answer wrong and he just got an X type of thing. That's all he put on his timeline to a few of these. He didn't say this is false, I never said this or anything like that. The people are like, does that mean it's false? And Twitter even did their good old community note on it, on a few. But then Twitter, if anyone's seen it, the latest one, have said, and they kind of left themselves open that, like, he's put a cross on it, but he's not actually come out and said it's false. And naturally, you know how Twitter works as well, Trev. People are going crazy now. Like, they've silenced him, they've told him to backtrack and all these types of things. But the old smoke without fire, you have to be honest and say, Trev, the big European names that have gone to Saudi, take Ronaldo out, because Ronaldo's a different beast on everything he's doing there and how it's working. But who else is actually coming out and saying, I'm happy, I'm loving it, all those types of things? I know it's not a McDonald's advert, but they're not exactly queuing up, are they, at the moment? So there's just a bit of juice in the Saudi story again, and who knows what's going to happen before the end of the window, eh?
Yeah, I've factored Bobby Firmino in there as well. We've heard stories of him being disgruntled, not necessarily with Fab, but, I think Fab might be kind of enjoying himself out there. Maybe Fab's just that little bit closer to the couch and slippers, and he's screw it, I'm getting paid big money. And listen, I can 100% relate to that way of approaching things after you've had the career that kid's had. So there are different ways of finishing up here. There are two things I want to ask you about with regard to the Saudi thing. It's since we spoke last that the news that you mentioned there about Stevie Gerrard broke. But in the interim, I had a show with Jan, and I wanted to throw it out at him, and I'm just going to ask you the same question. When it comes to Stevie Gerrard and his decision to, sign on for another 2 years, he's still a comparatively young man, so that may factor into your answer here. the whole conversation about generational wealth may factor into your answer here. I'm not trying to lay down any breadcrumbs. I'm curious. What do you think that says about him and his hopes, aspirations for continuing the managerial career and arc that might eventually one day lead to sitting in the dugout at Anfield as the gaffer? Now, nobody says he has to do that. He has said that it's something he would like to do. A lot of people have imprinted very much on that as a personal desire for them as well. There's literally, I would say, nothing to suggest that he's going to be capable of doing that. And in fact, if anything, his former teammate has very much supplanted him in terms of looking the part. Yeah. So I wonder, what do you think it says about Stevie, that decision? Is it a kind of, you know what, it's a money thing, I'm going to take the money and I may never manage again, and who gives a shit if I don't, because we're set up here, me and the kids and the missus? Or do you think is any way he can justify this as a sensible football move?
He's such a weird one. And I think it always, like, when answering this, I mean, he's one of my footballing heroes. He's a football god for me. You know, how many, like, nights or events or whatever you want to call it, things that Steven Gerrard given us. So I always think of that. You know, he is a hero of mine. I don't care what anyone says in regards to anything that's changed for them. The one thing I think is, for me personally, the Liverpool thing, I just can't see it now. It's almost out of the question. I think it's gone. I just don't see a road back, because the Rangers thing I kind of got, and this is being derogatory for any Scottish fans listening, but to a certain level, the move to Villa I got as well at the same time. And we probably all had a thought of where this could go to. But when that didn't work out, Trev, we probably expected might go down a level, you know, even to the Championship, like go from there. But obviously the Saudi offer came knocking. I mean, the one thing that people can't reconcile, and I get this, is the Saudi moves tend to be, on the whole, for people who are at the end of their careers, aren't they? And, you know, it's a last payday type of thing, where essentially he should be, and as you said, you've got to take him at his word. He's a strong character. There's no two doubts about that. He wants to get into the Anfield hot seat eventually and go from there. So he's at the start, really, of his managerial career. So it doesn't really make sense from a pure footballing perspective. However, we know the money involved. You know, it's serious wages, and that's part of it. And people also look and go, oh, well, look at Robbie Fowler and all that. Robbie Fowler was quite clear in saying, you know, I'm not getting any job offers in sort of the UK, Europe, so it's the only real option for me. I had to go to India previously. That, you know, it's an offer I've got to take before it went sour for him. Stevie, it's not the same, is it? You know, we know he's had offers, as he talked about, from UK and others. So
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, mag boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
I'd hate to judge Steven Gerrard anyway. That's just my own personal opinion. But I think the offers, the wealth, the generational wealth, you know, they've really gone hard on him at 85, haven't they? It's funny that as soon as Hendo goes, Stevie gets a new deal, doesn't he, with an extension. They're going to back him and all these types of things. So you can imagine, and as the reports and suggestions when we're asking around, it's massive, massive managerial money. So I think I get it from the finance perspective. I do, and what it sets up for generational wealth. I just think from a footballing perspective, it maybe kills if that is his ultimate aim, as he says. I just can't draw the dots to that anymore, Trev. But he may not care. It may have changed from him from when he last said it officially on record. But yeah, from a footballing journey, I can't really get it, to be honest.
Yeah, similar. I think it's a cynical decision of, that probably that path is gone. And, why not coin it while I can? And, who am I to critique anyone for doing that? The last thing I wanted to throw at you was something I heard during the week from not one, not two, but three different sources, which was an opinion to the sort of effect that my worry and my question to you 2 shows ago, is this project dead on its arse already? Might not be such a wild concept, according to these 3 individuals who were sort of floating out the idea that the league and the setup of the league was all sort of part of an elaborate beard, a massive big part of the show, so that the World Cup could be nailed down and achieved and gotten, and then it gives a shit really, once everything. Now I don't know. It seems like way too elaborate in terms of the bigger scheme of things. But you know me, I love an off-beam theory. I love the idea that there is this type of beyond elaborate illusion possible. What do you think of that? Is there anything to it? Is it just nonsense? And are you, when you see the little ripples that are happening now, more encouraged or less encouraged about whether or not the project is either in its infancy or actually on the way out already?
We'll find out in the summer, because we said all the stories that we've seen written or we've been told and we're asking around is, the Saudis are going to go big in the summer again, and there's about 2.5 billion, and we've talked about these stories, Trev. The likes of De Bruyne, Salah, those types of players are high on the list. There's a lot of talk there. So we'll find out in the summer. There's a little bit of me, and obviously nothing for Salah, just to be clear. We want him to stay where he is. But we kind of hope so, because it makes our show interesting to start with, doesn't it? And we love last summer breaking the stories like, there's another offer, and they've offered Bernardo Silva 50 hookers and 8,000 cigars a week to go this time. So we like the drama it kind of brings in that regard. The biggest issue I think that they have is the infrastructure, and I don't think they brought Emanalo in, as we said, to sort of look at that and really focus on that, because you can bring the players in, you can pay the wages, and that attracts them, and they're for the money. But when the stadiums are empty, and this, remember, people will say about sports washing PR, and I'm trying to steer away from that, but it has a tentative link. It doesn't look good when the stadiums are empty, does it? So they've not quite got that right, and Emanalo's alluded to that, how they get fans in, and people will have their opinions on that, but it's the PR aspect, isn't it? So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, you look at Laporte's comments, true or false, you look at what other players have said. The one thing when you speak to the very few, and I mean there's very few, journalists that cover sort of the Saudi football, that area of the world, and that's, I can't pretend we got loads and loads of info on this, but the thing that really struck me is one said is, the Saudis have a very relaxed attitude when it comes to sport and football. Whereas in Europe, we're like, it's fast-paced, it's about trophies and all that type of thing, and building quickly and networks and all that. The Saudis have got money, but their general attitude is quite relaxed. They're not in a kind of rush to get things done. If people saying, what do I mean? If you think, Trev, the obvious example for us lot is, do you remember when we agreed the deal for Fab and he didn't go on that plane for 40 million? But the deal nearly collapsed because they just weren't sending the money over and getting it done on Liverpool's terms types of thing. And it actually took 3 weeks for that to actually go through. It's that type of thing, like, we'll get the money to you. And the Al-Ettifaq story was given an example. Hendo went there and said, you need to change the training ground. This is modern, all this. Like, great idea. But it still took a number of weeks to get to that point, and months even. So I think that relaxed attitude around the infrastructure and how things should work probably doesn't help them in terms of their project. I think that specifically is what Emanalo's there to look at and help them with as well. However, I'm not just going to sit on the fence. I want to give that full context and that full answer. My gut tells me, and I could well be wrong on this, an egg on the face job, I do think they're going to go again this summer. I do think you'll see that money spent. The focus is on the Riyadh season at the moment, as I've said. It's on the boxing and other things, the Olympic bid. But come the summer, when transfers and football comes back on the agenda, I would not be surprised just to see this ramp up again. Whether it can be to the same scale, I do not know. But there will be Saudi bids for big European players in the summer, is what I think will happen.
Well, that's a very interesting take, and it will be very interesting to see whether the negative publicity of lads wanting away will do damage to their potential to lure people, because all of a sudden it might not just be about the money for some lads. But yeah, one to watch. And another show where we've managed to cram a huge amount of information into just short of an hour. So I want to finish before we finish. We haven't had a chat for a while. I know you're doing lots with the channel, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to let people know what to keep an eye out for. Is there anything that you want to draw particular attention to or send people back towards, like the song series that you did? Anything at all like that you want to mention? Have at it.
Yeah, just a few, because I know, and people will be saying there's not much happening with Liverpool, exactly as you said, Trev. So we have got a few shows in the coming week just around Liverpool-linked targets. So when we talk about players like Diomande, and when we've also seen links that people will have for South American players like Luis Guillem and things like that, we will just be grabbing a few sort of experts. So even tomorrow, we've got our South American expert, Tom Robinson, on the show, just to talk through these players that you've probably seen in the gossip columns, but you might not know much about, because we always like to know a little bit more about players. So with the week coming towards the end of the window, just keep an eye out for a few of those.
Fantastic. And just so people know, it's important that I mention this at all possible junctures. Myself and Dave Hendrick have started with Buzz in a big way. Last week we did the first episode of True Detective. Second one will be recorded tomorrow night. The second episode of Buzz with us in our new incarnation is also out in the last 24 hours, and that's on the film Saltburn. We will be doing a second one tomorrow night on, and I might as well spill the beans now. We decided to do a new one and a classic every so often. So the classic that we're going to do is, little drum roll, The Rock, because everybody's seen The Rock. So we're going to have a little chat about that. So that will be two recorded back to back and out pretty much over the next couple of days for you. Myself and Jan are back on Thursday night. Guy is doing Raw tonight instead of myself, because it's the Carling Cup semi-final second leg. He's doing that with Dave Hendrick and I think Harry Sethi, and I'll be back for the FA Cup at the weekend for Raw. Yeah, I'm not sure if Dave and I will get anything in before I'm away at the Chelsea game, but we'll be definitely doing one soon after, because that is deadline day, the 31st. So we'll be filling in. We'll probably fit one in the immediate aftermath, so we can do a sum up of whatever happened, and hopefully there'll be plenty to talk to you about. So from myself, from Dave, from the Transfer Podcast, on an occasion where there were transfers to talk about, at least potential ones, we're happy. We're back in the saddle. We'll see you soon.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Tired of ads barging into your favorite news podcasts? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Just head to amazon.com/ad-free news podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime subscribers. Some shows may have ads.